That was literally
awesome.
one of those videos that you know it's coming.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 2 of Drag Racing Friends. Somehow we made it through episode 1, although on episode 2 we have a new and different special co-host, Damon Steinke. Although, Damon, I often refer to you as Stanky. You got to do it with a lot of attitude, though, dude. That boy is stanky.
That's a fact.
I am sure I am not the first person to say that. You are a guy that is often found on the wall at a drag strip, taking photos, talking smack, making faces. In fact, I've never seen anybody better at talking smack all the way across both lanes of the drag strip than you.
I take great pride in that.
So how long have you been in the drag racing world, covering it, racing, etc.?
Full time, Ellen and I started our company 6 years ago. I've been around drag racing for about 30 years.
Yeah, and E3 is you guys are a big name in the drag racing coverage world. I mean, you are. That's how we all met, is covering these races. Everybody relies on you for cool photos, for cool coverage. What does it mean to you to be bringing that kind of coverage to people?
We started it 6 years ago or whatever it was, and we started it because I wanted to do things differently. I don't like the canned PC bullshit, and what you're going to get from me is a 40 grit sandpaper across the face. Right across the face.
It's funny you say that because you and I have had a lot of conversations standing on the wall, right? In fact,
Yep.
Most of the time it's me up in the scaffolding talking down to you or whatever because I'm live streaming and you're shooting photos. But you're a really passionate guy about drag racing. I'm the same way. I mean, I grew up drag racing. I grew up around NHRA drag racing. Everybody knows me now as the guy that we do no prep and heads up and, radial tire stuff and anything goes. But the truth is, I grew up as an NHRA drag racer. I firmly believed until I was 18 or 19 or 20 or 30 years old that anything that wasn't NHRA was just some fly-by-night crap that was going on. I mean, I grew up Fremont drag strip. Pro stock was my class, man. But I knew guys that ran Top Fuel. I knew guys that ran Funny Car. That's the thing that, gripped me as a kid was NHRA drag racing and the rivalries that go with it. How about you? Who was your favorite? Were you a Funny Car guy, a Pro stock guy, a Top Fuel guy?
I'm a Ford guy through and through. And when I first was introduced to NHRA, it was when John Force was running a Ford.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my introduction. I didn't grow up with NHRA. I grew up with like NSCA and the old NMCA.
Yep.
A lot of the small tire Pro 50, things like that in the mid 90s, late 90s.
See, and it's funny you say that because there's so many sanctioning bodies that as a West Coast guy, I just didn't have exposure to, and so that's why my head was all NHRA. And speaking of NHRA, we've got a guy that is our special guest who's going to be with us through the whole show, Scotty Palmer, who I get to call a friend. I know you do, Damon. Scotty Palmer, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me here. I'm looking forward to it because I know it's not going to be the same old show.
Oh,
it's
no,
it's going to be 40 grit.
It is going to be 40 grit.
Yep.
And
Hey, I painted cars my whole life. So I painted my cars my whole life, so I know what 40 grit is. So
that's true. And we're going to get into a bunch of the cool Scotty Palmer world, but know, folks that are out there watching, this episode is going to be all about Top Fuel versus Funny Car versus Pro Stock. What is it that drives each one? Who is really the best? Now, I got to tell you, I'm a Pro Stock guy. I got my Pro Stock license way back in 2000. I am a door car guy, but I sure do love me some nitro. But before we get into the ins and outs, before Scotty tries to convince us that 300 inches or nothing is the way to go, we need to do the segment we call Insanity, and that means we all three have to watch this video. So if you guys go up in your chat, okay, here on our Squadcast, and click the link. Everybody open up the video and let's watch this YouTube video, because it's going to get us all fired up.
You're going to make me look for something. This is going to be bad here. Where is this chat?
On the top right of Squadcast, okay, is a little...
yeah.
You see the little chat symbol?
Yep, I see
so
it.
So open that, and there's a link in there. Click on the link, and then watch it, because this is... the title of the video is Twin Cam Tommy Blower Explosion.
Okay.
I mean, what could possibly go wrong? You know about blower explosions? Dude, this thing sounds bitchin'.
Yeah.
Oh, this is about to get awesome.
Oh, he's serious about whacking that throttle.
Oh, I know, right? Oh, this is going to be good, because you're a throttle whacker, dude.
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy.
Oh, it's on, dude.
Oh, boy.
I'm nervous now. No! They're going to lean it out. Oh, it's about to go bad. Oh! Damn! Woo!
Oh,
Oh!
not good.
Wow. And look, it keeps running with no blower on it.
That's what I noticed too.
Fire back here.
As the guy walks right up to the spinning tire. Dude, they raise all kinds of places.
Hopefully that's not the tech guy.
Okay, so after watching the video, seeing the damn thing explode in the pits, and knowing how volatile nitro is, dude, what is it about it that makes you love it? Is that what makes you love it?
That's it. It's the danger. It's the danger knowing that you could pull that trigger on the starter and blow the heads completely off of it if you're a dipshit, you know? Really, and it's easy to do even if you're not. I mean, even if you're paying attention, you have a poppet leak or something. It is crazy. It's dumb. It's the dumbest thing ever. But I love it.
It's so rad. There is nothing quite like the sound of a nitro motor just sitting there idling, right? They sound so bitchin'. The smell is insane. One of my favorite things about being at NHRA races and being around the nitro pits is the reaction from the fans, right? Because everybody wants to get up there close. You know, huffing nitro fumes is sort of like eating a hot pepper. Like, you know it's a bad idea, but you're like, God, I just can't help myself. Ah! You know, and so they're crying and sneezing and coughing and all that. And you find yourself mesmerized by the guys that are wily veterans who can stand there with a wet pipe just emptying in their face like it's the money shot in a porno, and they breathe it in like it's pure oxygen. It doesn't bother them at all. Now, I mean, I'm at a lot of drag races. You know, I've spent a lot of time on the starting line with nitro cars. I know you got to breathe in through your mouth and out through your nose. If you do it the other way around, dude, you are a dead man, right? Because you got to ease the nostrils into this, right? Get them desensitized, then you're good for a little while. But, dude, normal people don't know that. And, I mean, and it just blows me away to watch them. What do you think when you see all those fans standing there?
We get people who come up there, and we whack the throttle, and they'll stand as close to a header pipe as they can. They get in range. And, I mean, you can watch it on our videos. You can just watch hats blow off. I mean, if you're standing there the whole warm-up, and we can blow your hat off when we blip the throttle, you're too close. That's crazy. I mean, how do they breathe? I mean, sometimes in the pits, we can barely breathe. We're crying when they get out of the car. You know, it's horrible. I mean, honestly, it's a terrible smell if you want to know the truth. It's just something about it. Like you said, it's like eating a jalapeno. If you quit, then it burns. If you just keep going, I guess it just keeps feeling good, you know.
Now, what
Honestly,
do you think, Damon?
Chad,
I mean, how what do you like about it?
I'll tell you, Scotty's pit is one of the only ones that makes me cry every time. Like, I could go
Scotty.
into Cruz's pit or anybody else. I go into Scotty's pit, and I know I'm going to be on level of death.
Yeah.
But part of that is, you know, the after hours effects is going to be still lingering on. The nitro effects are one thing, and then the after effects, you got to endure that too. So we got it on both sides.
Okay, so the last thing I want to talk to you before we bring on our next guest too, is you guys have become really, really famous on the Big Show Tour on NHRA because you're in it because it's fun, because of the passion, right? Yeah. And no place was that more evident than when you made your first final round, not this last year, but the year before, and you made the final, you runner-up. You didn't even win, but you brought the car back and turned it around. You did a full turnaround as if you had another round to go because you told everybody that during the after party you were going to give it throttle wax. Dude, you gave it a jillion throttle wax and blew everybody's mind.
11 throttle whacks, and actually the Torrance team helped us do all of that. And Bobby Lagana whacked the throttle. If you watch that video, I walked up there once to whack the throttle. He literally took his arm and shoved me back and did it himself. You know, it was the coolest thing ever. But the fact of the matter is, I told everybody that year, hey, I think we're going to win a race this year. And when we do, I'm going to burn our minivan down. I'm going to burn it to the ground on the return road. So before the final round, I don't know who it was, but one of the NHRA officials came up and leaned in the car and said, hey, Scott, I just want you to know that we're on Indian prop. This is reservation territory. If you burn your minivan down to the ground, you'll go to jail here. And I said, I don't care. If we win the race, I will burn it to the ground. You know, seriously. So. But we didn't win, so the celebration was mellow. We only whacked the throttle 11 times.
So why is it, though, that, you know, of all the nitro rides, why is it that a Top Fuel dragster is the best?
You know, just the ease of the, you know, I think it's easier for me to get in and out of. I love funny cars and ran alcohol funny car, but just the Kenny Bernstein days, Dick LaHaye, just seeing Larry Dixon in that Miller Lite car and Dicko turning the knobs on that thing. I mean, I had no clue that I would ever get a Top Fuel dragster, but that Miller Lite car probably did it for me. Because it just left with the wheels packing about this high in the air every time. And if you notice, until the last 2 or 3 years, mine did that too. Murph McKinney built me and Bobby and Dom Lagana a new car one time when we had no money. And he said, where do you want the motor? All I told him was, you set it up just like Larry Dixon's car. I want the wheels in the air and for 100 feet. You know? And that's how my first new car. And Murph built it for us. We had no business getting a new car, but Murph really fixed us up. There were some new rules, and me and Bobby and Dom were going to be kind of out of business. So that was my rule. Where do you want the motor? Wherever Dick LaHaye's is, because it picks the wheels up good. You know, sure enough, the motor's real far back in them. You know, it still is, but we control it a little bit different now.
Oh my God, I love it! I love it. Well, and I am a fan of a Top Fuel car with the wheels up. I mean, there is no doubt because it's so different. You know, it leaves and it barely starts to move forward and it does the twist and then it's up and it flattens out and then it dangles up there. And the greatest thing is the slow-mo video to watch all the body panels distorting and everything because this thing is just hanging out there flopping around. People don't understand how flexible they are until you see that. And until you see the 1,000-foot, you know, all the way in the throttle, the big bow to the damn car the whole way. That's just epic. The power level is insane.
I will tell you, as somebody who has shot numerous NHRA national events, there is nothing better than getting that shot with the wheels up on a Top Fueler.
Yep.
Because it doesn't happen that much.
Nope.
And when it does,
it's quick.
If you get that shot,
yeah,
it's like, oh.
Oh yeah.
You know, if you just go back and look at old videos, our car would just pack them out there for 100 feet. There's some from, you know, Sonoma and Seattle, Norwalk. There's a couple coming to mind that are just I mean, it's got the wheels 2 feet in the air, sometimes higher. I mean, I've actually had NHRA guys that when I get to the return road, this has been 4 years ago probably, but they come up and said, "Hey, you got to lower your wheelie bar." I was like, I don't. Why?
Yeah.
It was carrying them that far, and people had stopped doing it, so we were still carrying the wheels, and they were telling me, you're going to have to lower the wheelie bar." And since then, they've got a rule of how high the wheelie bar can be. So
No way.
yeah,
The Scotty Palmer rule.
no,
That's what we're
I don't know
calling it
about
from
that.
now
I
on.
think it's
No, it is. Hey, shut your damn mouth.
Yeah, okay.
From now on, it's the damn Scotty Palmer
That's
rule.
it.
I don't give a shit who asks. I'm telling everybody that's why that rule was made. Remember, Scotty, you and I have a rule. You lie, and I'll swear to it, and vice versa. So this is one of those moments where I'm going to lie, and you are going to
All
swear
right.
to it.
Hey,
So help me
And
God.
then it makes it the truth.
Right? And Damon will totally back us up too. Who's not going to
Absolutely.
believe these three guys? Come on.
Yeah.
There's a couple more rules out there they made for me too, but it was because of after hours.
I know, right? Shit, you and I both, brother. Okay, I think Caps is calling in. Dimitri, is Caps calling in now? Speaking of after hours,
Oh,
boys and girls.
oh man, I'm still working, so I'm just still on my Sonic. Yeah,
Okay, I'll
I'm
let
a
you.
Sonic freak.
I know. You and I have the same. Okay, so styrofoam cups. Gotta have a styrofoam cup because it keeps everything cold forever. Until they came out with these bastards.
Yeah.
These insulated cups. Holy crap, dude. I'm addicted to these things. I take iced tea with me everywhere. Iced tea.
Uh-huh. Me too. See?
Exactly. Oh, Jesus.
Sonic, pellet ice,
Yes.
and moonshine.
Dude.
That's all I'm going to say.
Dude. Okay, so my cousin Marilyn lives in this big ass fancy house in Dallas that her and her husband built. And I mean, it's a big, beautiful, high dollar downtown Dallas house. Right near SMU and everything. So you know the area, right? So they had 2 ice makers put in their house. Okay? 2 ice machines. 1 Sonic Ice and 1 regular ice. And I'm like, winner. In our house that we're building right now, and my deal, when it gets to that point, when we get where we're putting stuff in, I have a spot in the pantry for a full commercial ice machine.
Sonic
Like,
Ice. We have
full
Sonic.
deal.
We have Sonic
Yeah.
Ice in the trailer.
Yes.
They have
Hell
a
yeah.
little Sonic Ice machine you can buy and put right. It's in the trailer.
Hell yes. Scotty, and now that I'm in Texas, at some point this year, maybe this year, we need to do what we were talking about where I was just going to be on the side of the road. Like, Damon, you'll love this. We said that I wanted to do a live stream trip with Scotty for the weekend and just be a crew guy, right? I've crewed on a bunch of fuel cars, so I'm not useless. So I'm like,
Well, that's debatable.
yeah, I know. That's why I was like, set it slow. But what we're going to do is I'm going to fly in to somewhere on the way to the race and literally take a taxi or Uber or whatever to a street corner and be standing on the street corner with my suitcase, and Scotty gets off the freeway, pulls up at the intersection, I climb in the rig, and off we go.
Yeah,
Alex Laughlin!
Alex is here.
What is up, brother man?
How's it going?
Alex, thank you so much for joining us on the show. It looks like you're in the shop or something. You're in the warehouse. Where are you at?
I'm at the.
That's his bedroom.
Yeah, it's my room. No, I'm at the Elite shop in Fort Worth.
Nice. Oh, so you're close to me right now, dude. Yeah.
Where you at?
I'm in Richardson, so I'm over north of Dallas. So yeah, we're not far from each other.
Cool.
You, I mean, everybody knows you drive a Pro Stocker in NHRA. I am jealous. I got my Pro Stock license back in 2000 at Houston. I went to Roy Hill's school. I always was a big Pro Stock fan. I went to Roy Hill's school. Roy, typical Roy, called me an asshole and all kinds of other names and told me that he was not going to allow me to take the Pro Stock class because the quickest I'd ever been up to that point was 12:05, I believe, in a stock eliminator car. He asked me if I'd ever raced a stick car before. I said yes. He said that's another reason because you're going to try and use the clutch. And I said, who's an idiot that would use a clutch in a Lenko car? Because when I licensed, it was a Lenko car. And he would not do it. And at the time I was smart and I wasn't in the automotive aftermarket for a living, so I actually made real money. So I said, dude, do you want me to pay for the next class now? Like, if I don't get it this weekend, I'll be at your next class in 2 weeks.
Sure.
And he hemmed and hawed and finally said, okay, you could do it. And 3 days later, I was the first guy to ever get a Pro Stock license at Roy Hills whose dad didn't own a Pro Stocker. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sweet.
So, I'm a door car guy. I love it. And so my hat is off to you figuratively for driving a new Pro Stocker. It's rad, and I'm jealous of you, for sure.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Very lucky, for sure.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that, because I know Scotty would say he's lucky too. You know, Scotty's been working for a very long time in the drag race world, and that's code for he's pretty old. And but we all know that it doesn't really matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how good you are as a driver or any of those things. It's the combination of everything that has to come together, and some of that is luck, and
No doubt.
and so feeling fortunate and feeling excited to drive a race car. If you don't, then you shouldn't do it. I mean, that's my opinion, right?
I agree 100%. Yeah.
So, growing up, were you always a door car guy? Was Pro Stock your deal?
So growing up, when I first started drag racing, it was in like super comp. I was 15, so back then, I was just doing like some of the local stuff, 8th mile. It was a super old chassis, and I want to say it ran like 460s, 470s or something to the 8th,
Yeah.
And then I started running it in super comp and NHRA when I was 16. And then just kind of moved around, ran Top Dragster some. But the more that I learned about NHRA drag racing, per se, and about Pro Stock, I decided at that point that was absolutely what I wanted to do. I grew up in kart racing, and a lot of the karting categories that I raced in was there were spec classes. So everybody basically has the same stuff. So it's the best driver that wins. And, that's kind of what I learned about Pro Stock back then, is it's such a driver's category. And I thought, man, that's so similar to, like what I grew up racing. And I decided then that's what I wanted to do. I never, ever, ever would have thought that it would become a reality. But here we are. I've made a couple races in Pro Stock, and, if I had one wish before I were to die, I always say it would have been to do a burnout and let the clutch out on a Pro Stock car. So, the goal and dream has been achieved for sure.
Dude,
So,
Scotty, when you see somebody like Alex excited about this, because you can see it on his face, I mean,
yeah.
what does that feel like for you?
Hey, I'm still the same way. I'm 56. It's still the same every time I get in there. I think, how is this even possible? I mean, I grew up painting cars in my garage, not a shop, my garage, So every time I go to a racetrack, I feel like it's the first time. I'm like, how did this happen?
For sure. Don't take it for granted.
So I have to ask Alex, and Alex and I have known each other for a while. Why would anybody want to race Pro Stock anymore when all the damn cars look the same?
Well, the funny
I'm
cars
just
look
saying,
the same too.
You guys in Pro Stock.
All the dragsters look the same, don't they?
True.
No!
Hey, the kid has a point. The kid has a
Good
point.
point.
Yeah.
But those are making 11,000 horsepower.
So what?
Okay. I mean, there's arguments both ways for sure.
Hey,
we only make 1,500 horsepower, but what we're doing with them is pretty impressive.
it is.
Oh, I don't disagree.
It is, and the G-forces, and Scotty knows this, the G-forces when a Pro Stock car leaves the starting line are actually harder for the initial hit than a fuel car is.
Yeah.
And it's down track where the Pro Stocker quits pulling in comparison. But
It's way easier to shoot a Pro Stock car on the starting line than it is a nitro car, though.
That is true.
And Alex knows.
That is
I can
true.
imagine.
Hey, I bet Alex is in a Top Fuel car at least one time before he quits.
I would like to. I for sure would like to. People ask all the time if I have any interest in racing in the nitro categories, and I like all of it. Even if all I had was a freaking moped, I'd be racing it for sure.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'd like to hit the gas pedal on a nitro car of some sort one day for sure.
So for me, one of the most iconic people in NHRA drag racing history, and particularly in pro stock, was Warren Johnson, right? And WJ is a great guy. He's got attitude, and people either love him or hate him. But the truth of the matter is, one of the smartest guys in the history of drag racing. He's got grease under his fingernails that's older than I am. The guy lives and breathes this. Like, for all the right reasons, he does it. But he has been very critical over the years of the nitro categories, and on more than one occasion has referred to a Top Fuel dragster as an oil derrick. And so, Scotty, what do you think of stuff like that? And I mean, and Alex, do you have that animosity toward the fuel car guys, or what?
I'll let Scott go first.
I liked it. I mean, I get it. I see, especially during that time when we were all coming into Top Fuel racing. Honestly, I personally had no business with the Top Fuel car. I had no business with one. So I was one of them he was talking about there for a few. There was a few seasons that I struggled, but finally I told some of the big guys, hey, you guys can stand back there and cross your arms and make fun of us for having trouble. But I'm not going to quit. I'll be here scratching and clawing when half you fuckers are gone. I don't know if I can say that or not, but
Yes.
But I said, I'll be here when you guys are gone. So if you don't want to follow me, then I'll take advice. My ego's not that big, So anyway, I can kind of relate to him. If I was a pro stock guy, especially back then, there was quite a few cars, including some of the big teams, that were really leveling parts at the time when I heard him say it. And I was just thinking to myself, I wouldn't want to be a pro stock car running behind us right now. No way.
Okay, Alex, you're up.
Yeah, I mean, picking up right there too, it is tough, because the nitro cars just leave so much clutch dust and debris on the racetrack that we have to get through. And so being the first, couple pair out in pro stock behind the nitro cars is a total pain. As far as driving one or the other, it's arguable that you don't have to do anything in a nitro car except hit the gas and hang on, right? But I say too.
Hey, but you know what?
That must be what you've been doing wrong, Scotty, because apparently if you didn't do anything, it'd go straight, but you steer the shit out of it.
If you had an onboard camera in there, you'd think I was having trouble, Hey,
Maybe you need a front end alignment.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Back in Oklahoma where I grew up, we called it chasing rabbits. It's chasing rabbits the whole way down,
Oh, God.
Hey, that's why Alex is doing so good in no prep. He's having to follow in our clutch test, so it's kind of like running on a no prep race. See,
right?
Yeah,
so
basically.
We're really helping you, Alex.
Yes,
I say the same thing all the time.
It's funny though, Scotty, when you say that you really had no business being a Top Fuel car, because if that's the case, then I would say that if you do it right, you have an incredible career ahead of you, because John Force didn't have any business being in a Top Fuel car, in a nitro car, for the first 5+ years, 10 years that he drove. If Gary Densham didn't save him from himself, he'd have died years ago.
That's right.
I mean, he's the luckiest son of a bitch in drag racing because he didn't kill himself before people told him what to do right. I mean, it's true. And anybody who argues with that just doesn't know their history.
That's right.
I mean, I know the guy that promoted the very first event that Force went to in Australia, and I know when Densham was there and went, oh my God, this kid's going to kill himself. Somebody's got to save him from himself. That actually happened, I mean, so if that's the case, if that's the roadmap to success, Scotty Palmer, I'm going to be able to say I knew you win.
Hey, if that's the roadmap, I'm on track.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dude, you own
Hey,
it.
Alex. Comparing pro stock to, say, a Top Fuel, if you're a sponsor and you got much more area to display on a door car, is your opinion that if I'm going to spend money, I should do it on a pro stock car and not a Top Fueler because I have so much more area?
I haven't really ever considered it quite like that. The one thing that I do consider is, if you can stretch a check for $100,000 or something like that a lot further in a pro stock car than a top fuel car. So that's my appeal as far as sponsorship goes. I don't know necessarily that there's a whole lot more room on the door of a pro stock car versus a funny car or a dragster. There is a different level of appeal, though, for sure, to the fans. The pro stock cars, unless you know about them and understand them, they aren't that cool to watch. They aren't that impressive, And like the nitro cars, those guys are running, 300 plus miles an hour. They blow fire, they blow up. It's always exciting and it's unpredictable. Once you do kind of educate somebody on a pro stock car, what we have to work with and what we're doing with it, that's when people do start to appreciate it. But as far as the general fan goes, most people are going to, be more interested in watching the nitro cars. And, just to hop right off of that and onto like pro mod, I think that's the perfect happy medium between the two. And in all honesty, pro mod is my favorite category. The cars are very different, just like, what you were complaining about first there, Damon. The cars are very, very different and different power adders. They look different, they sound different, and they're unpredictable too. And, I say, people ask all the time, well, what's the difference in pro stock and pro mod? And I say, well, pro stock is all about perfection and pro mod is all about survival. And I totally think that's the case.
Well, and I'll tell you what, I love that you brought that up, Alex, because one of the things that I think is so cool about pro stock when you do educate the fan, right, is that all of the parts that go into an NHRA pro stock car are very, very, very accessible, right? So the Holley EFI that's in them is the same Holley Dominator EFI that anybody can go buy at Summit, right?
Sure.
Many of the parts that are in them are parts that you would find in any big block Chevrolet build or what have you, right? All of the parts that they're used, the rear end housings, all those things, they're perfected, very high-end versions of, but very similar to the things that are in all different levels of sportsman, race car, and all of that. Pro mod takes that to another level because, like you said, pro mod is like a funny car and a pro stocker had, sex in the parking lot of a dive bar after way too many tequila shots, and this is what happened, and
that's why Palmer likes pro mod.
It is, because here's the thing. What happened was when Scotty said, hey, I'm in, let's do that, he was hoping for a different outcome than the normal pro mod, which is why he just made his own and did a nitro pro mod, dude, and which is the end. So I know, Alex, I know you've seen the Nitro Pro Mod car. So you've seen it. It is brutal. I've seen it make more passes than most people, and I love it, and it makes me so happy. But it is not perfected yet. There's so much left to do to get this thing to be consistent. With that said, would you jump in that sucker if you had the chance tomorrow?
Man, I don't know. The few times that I've seen it, it looked pretty hairy.
I just say that any car that you have to refuel after a burnout is the fucking greatest thing ever, dude.
That's pretty gnarly.
And when Scotty hits the throttle on that thing at Tulsa in the right lane, and I'm up there live streaming the damn thing, and he whacks the throttle, and the whole car jumps up in the air. Right? It goes to like 11 grand, okay? He pedals the thing, sparks are shooting out of the bell housing under the thing. It sets back on the ground, does one bounce, and he's back into the wood. The thing blows the tires off, hits the ground again. He recovers it, whacks it again, and motors it out like on 5.5 cylinders. And the crowd lost their minds. If he had went down the racetrack perfectly smooth and it went 500 miles an hour, nobody would have gave a single shit about it. But that was the best, dude. Seriously,
that's
awesome.
The truth. It's been 300 feet 2 times and 6 times smoked the tires, which is still not bad odds for a fuel car.
No,
but
yeah,
the ones where it was wild and sideways and pedaling and doing stupid shit, publicity is crazy. The fans were rabid whenever it's the dump. It's like a train wreck. They don't really want to see you wreck, but if you're going to, they want to see it, you know. It's going to happen anyway, you know.
Well, boys, we got to cut this one. I am so thankful. Dude, Alex, thank you so much for joining us on the show. We really appreciate it. And I want to make sure you know we will invite you back for another show as well. It's great having you here.
Hey, Alex, I got one thing to say, though. We are talking, me and my buddy Kent Longley, we're going to put a passenger seat in the Studebaker. Okay. This is his idea. This is a good friend of mine. He had him and so me and him and Rick DeCousin, this is our idea. Put a passenger seat in it. You may not go for the whole ride, but I can launch it with people in there. Or if you did a burnout in that thing, you look down, it looks like you're riding in a
burnout.
Okay.
I'm in for a burnout. I rode in the passenger seat in the Pro Stocker with Hank Hill. You know, before I got my license, that was the thing. He leaves the starting line, grabs 2 gears. You know, we go to the 8th mile, and he's like, "What do you think of that?" And I said, I think the only way I am going to be in this car with you ever again is if I'm driving and you're riding shotgun, because I ain't a rider, I'm a driver. That is, hell no, I'm out, right? But I'll do a damn burnout with you, Scotty Palmer. I will ride shotgun. My fat ass will pour myself in there, and I will live stream from that thing. And then you may have to force me to get out, but I'm in for the burnout.
We're just gonna have it. We're putting it in there for sure. So we're gonna at least give people some burnouts, have them get out, and then I'll make a run. But you know, somebody like Alex, he'd ride in it. It ain't that scary. Once you are in it and felt it, it's actually pretty smooth when you step on the gas when it goes. Now, we've got it to where I guarantee it's going to go down the track the next few runs. Watch.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's 100% sitting right out this lounge, ready to go to a racetrack. And it's ready. Nice. I guarantee you.
Hey, what if I gave you a racetrack to bring it to this weekend?
This weekend?
Yeah.
Well, I'm working on the other pro mod that we're going to run at the Midwest Field in Dallas. So I won't be able to do it.
That's true.
So, Alex, are you in with Palmer?
No,
you gonna do a burnout?
No, he's in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a terrible passenger. I'm a control freak. I definitely prefer the steering wheel, but I'd go for a lap with him for sure.
Okay, there we go.
That's awesome. Okay, we gotta go. The producers are yelling at me in my ear. Okay, so Scotty Palmer, you and I could drink and talk for the next 7 days straight. Never shut up. As everybody that knows us knows. Alex Laughlin, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Pro Stock Nitro, yes. This is what we're talking about. It's, I wanted you guys to want to kill each other, but the truth of the matter is it sounds like we're just all going to play together. It'll be great. Oh my God, look at that guy. Dude, you are far too pretty for this crowd, my friend. Since we all want to get back to drag racing, and you and Scotty can't race each other even if you were at the racetrack this weekend, I want to hear some smack talk. I want to know why a funny car is better than a 300-inch Top Fuel dragster. I mean, 125-inch wheelbase versus 300 inches. I mean, dude, any Joe Blow idiot could drive a, fuel dragster, but a funny car takes a real man, right, Ron Cabs?
Well, I got to be careful a little bit, only for a couple of reasons. I've got teammates, and I used to not worry about it as much. When Dixon was my teammate at Snakes, we'd always kind of razz each other because Snake driven everything, obviously being the hero that he is, but he had a real love for the funny car, all his funny cars. So I kind of had him in my corner. So Larry and I would go back and forth. We had a good time with it. Now, Antron and I, we have a fun time. But I drove a dragster. That was where I started for 2 years. So I always got to watch myself because now I made the funny car guys mad because I went and raced the March meet in a fuel altered, and it was second time I've done it. But I still got to say, yeah, and I won, which was just one of the highlights of my career for me as a kid out here where I live to win that race. And I don't know what it would equate to Damon or Scott, what you grew up going to win a special race where your dad took you and your family and you hung out on weekends. That was it for me. So that's why that meant so much. But driving a fuel altered, I had no idea. I knew they were crazy. I loved them as kids, but now I got to put that up on the pedestal because that driving that thing was ass puckering, like out of control, never knowing, like you're always like, and it reminds me, what's that car, Scott, you have?
A Studebaker.
That
Studebaker.
Oh my God. I stayed in on a Monday.
Studezilla.
Oh, you seen it leave the line. It actually left the line that time.
Yeah, it did, sort of. And that thing, that's one of the few things I looked at, and somebody was standing next to me when you made that run. They go, would you get in it? And I had to think about it for a second. Usually I'm like, yeah, I'll jump in, whatever. I was like, I'm not so sure about that. That was one of those cars that scared me a little bit, but I don't know about the smack talking it. Have you driven one, Scott, a funny car?
Only alcohol funny cars.
So it's hard to, I have such a respect for these other guys and girls that drive, the 9.5, 10.5, whatever, small tire cars. Getting to watch them do exhibitions at our NHRA races the first time I got to see them, really the haul ass cars.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I know they weren't some of the quickest in the country, but all of a sudden I had this envy and this like, oh my God, there's something I'm not sure I'd get in either. Like just a whole nother. And so it's hard to talk smack. I can, because I drove a Top Fuel dragster, and I can tell you kind of drive it like this compared to a funny car where you're like this. But in the same sense, you get in one of those small tire cars, or you get in like the Studebaker, and I'm not so sure I could do that. So I can't. I got to be careful sometimes when I try to smack talk.
Last weekend I got a '63 Corvette a couple weeks ago, and we painted it, put the whole thing together. I had it up on 2 wheels about the third. I think it was the third qualifying session, wasn't it, Chad?
Yeah, it was, and he left the line, and this thing went around, and I saw the entire front of the car because it was trying to get to me. And when I say trying to get to me, because not only was it aimed at me this way, but the nose was up, like it was trying to launch at me. And I don't know how you didn't scuff the side of it on the wall or anything else on that run, because it was all kinds of
It was just luck, and Frank Manzo helps me a lot on anything alcohol, so Manzo, he called me after that, and he's like, hey, you need to calm down, because I was trying to leave at 6,500 RPMs, and it's got a screw blower on it, and I said, well, that's where it sounds good, so that's where I want to swap feet, and nobody else out there runs swap speed or anything. They have converters and 2-steps and lots of gadgets on them, and I like the screaming sound, But anyway, he calmed me down for that last one. It got it off the line.
Well, now Caps knows about driving those, though.
Oh yeah, he could drive that.
Yeah, well, but also because the nostalgia funny cars that you've driven, you and I have had discussions about this a lot of times. The old-fashioned clutch car that you get to, bring the RPM up like an alcohol car and swap feet, that you and I have talked about that. That's a whole different thing than the, slipper centrifugal style clutch like a big show car has, where you're letting your foot off the clutch and, dragging it on in there and whacking the throttle. So which do you like better?
Well, the first time that was sort of a project that Nicky Bonifanti and Del Worsham, when I drove the Blue Max, came up with. Nobody had one in the nostalgia world. And I've heard stories with Ed McCulloch, the ace, being my crew chief, and Snake, and being around these old school racers talking about back in the day how some guys run a pedal clutch in a nitro car. And the first time I heard about it, I looked at them both like, oh, you got to be kidding me. You'd rev one up? And they said, oh, yeah. I mean, it was good for reaction time. Not certainly sure that it helped performance. Nobody ever really knew, but you could get a jump, right?
Right.
So and it was another one of those drinking nights that Nicky and Del and I and whoever, they were like, hey, Caps, you drive the Blue Max? I go, hell yeah, I'll drive the Blue Max. All right, we're going to get the gang together. And we had all these crew chiefs come out, and it was just a fun weekend. Then they decided to put the pedal clutch in it. So the first time I revved it up, people scattered behind the car. They had no idea that if they didn't know the pedal clutch was in it. I mean, imagine taking a nitro car, and it's all quiet, and you're ready for somebody just to pull the pump and let their foot off the pedal like normal, and all of a sudden you hear this bop, 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 and I'm starting to bring it up to about 3,000 RPM. It's insane. And I can't see them, of course, till afterwards. I saw people's video, but people ran for cover thinking something was wrong. And the first time I did it, I was hooked. I mean, it was like I had an erection the whole way down the racetrack. I was like, that was just the coolest thing ever, to rev that up and hit the gas at 3,500 RPM in a nitro car.
Yeah, nitro car.
But it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I told Del, I told Nick, I told everybody that was around there, I said to hold that up at a certain RPM and then let a clutch pedal out. Now this is granted not an alcohol. This is a nitro motor running like 92% nitro. And I'm trying to hold this thing at a certain RPM and look and hold the pedal and not let the pedal drag the motor down, but not let it free it up and hold it still and watch a light and try to cut a light, knowing that I've got these 6 or 7 badass crew chiefs standing behind me, hoping I do the right thing. I mean, it was one of the funnest moments, but one of the hardest things I've ever done. So there again, there's a whole nother situation that I probably would have talked crap about somebody until I did it.
Ron, what was your light on that?
I don't remember. They were good for that category, because you look at those guys and they're, if we rolled in super shallow in a funny car, we can go 80s or 90s right now in a big show car. Some better, some worse. I mean, that's trickling the light. But most of those nostalgia guys, they're 140s, 150s, not rolling it in. So it's a big game with the heritage guys. They just don't react. 21 gallon pumps, fuel pumps. It's just, the cars just don't have the same reaction. So that pedal clutch, I think I had like 50 or 60 lights.
Yeah, so I was just going to say.
Damn.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I know pedal clutch guys are 50 lights is a thing. Yeah. Like you said, in a nostalgia funny car, that's unheard of with a regular slipper clutch. I mean, it's just not possible. So the pedal clutch definitely picks you up there. I don't know if it makes the car any faster, but it certainly is cool when you're watching to hear the thing, like you said, goes bop, 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 and it just sits there. And it's only $3,000. It sounds like it's at $9,000. Yeah. But God, it's just amazing. And the fact that it doesn't tug the motor down, like the coordination that you've got to have to do it all right is amazing. Because I imagine if you screwed it up and tug the motor down too hard, dude, this thing's going to kaboom like none other. Like, that has to be going through your head.
Plus, what was cool is Dell, like Pluger's LA Hooker car I drove, they didn't believe in the air button shifter. So I always heard these stories of having to reach down and yank a gear. And I always thought it was cool to hear my heroes talk about that. So on top of staging this thing and revving it up, I had this lever. I would reach down about 600 foot mark and yank high gear. I mean, just like you hear Ed McCulloch and Snake and Mongoose talk about pulling a gear, So that it was cool getting to drive those cars and actually doing all that like they really did back in the early 70s. That kind of took everything to a whole nother level.
It's funny. So you got Scotty, Ron, you guys have been around me at drag strips all over the country, in the staging lanes, on the wall, up in the broadcast deal, whatever. If I walk up to Scotty and he's in the car, if you look in, obviously you see him, but generically speaking, if you're standing there, you just only see the top, right? Half of the guy, right? Or top quarter. In the funny car, you don't see any of the driver when they're in the car, really, unless you have just the right angle looking through the window, because it's just so hard to see you all that way back. But in the staging lanes with the body up, if you get in there, you can see you. Your knees are up, you're sitting there. You and I have had a bunch of conversations where I've been kneeling down next to you, under the body of the car. It's sort of a freak show to see a funny car driver all wadded up in there, And so I think to hear all the stuff you have to go through to drive one of these is even more impressive when you look at the, what looks to be incredibly uncomfortable seating position in a funny car. I know it's more comfortable than it looks, but it certainly doesn't look good.
I don't know, they could probably say the same thing. It feels comfortable. Yeah. Like you look and you wouldn't think. I got to drive a sprint car and a midget a couple times. Those things, like you watch a Chili Bowl and you watch these guys. I mean, you sit straight up and your feet go straight down, and the way you push on the pedals is super weird, and it's like a truck wheel. So anytime I jump in something else, and Scott probably the same thing, anytime he goes one vehicle to the next, you've got to adapt yourself and think about it. When I drove the Altered, it's like people are like, oh, that'll be a piece of cake. You're used to going 330. Well, no. I've got to think about everything. Like in my funny car, I get in and our seats are poured so nice to the point where there's wrinkles from the fire suit when they poured it that day that are still in it. So it's molded right to us, and everything's where it should be. It's perfect. Everything moves perfect. I got 8 guys that work on this car that make sure everything is exactly perfect for me. So when I get in that thing, it's like home. And when I'm in the race car, I feel like I'm at home and I don't feel scared. But when I watch somebody else do it and make a run, I'm like, holy cow, I do that?
Yeah.
Like, I go to the finish line and watch a car run, like Pomona, you're towing back and you go right by there and they make a run at you. You watch and you go, how in the hell are we feeling like we have more control than we do in these cars? Whether it's dragster, funny car,
I agree.
Pro-Mod, whatever it is.
Every time I see one run, I think that, how did this happen?
It looks
How
so
did
narrow, right?
Yeah.
I mean, from afar, you're like, that track looks narrow, but when you're in a car, it is narrow, but you don't feel that way. You feel like you kind of got control.
Yeah.
You know, I think one of the things that's entertaining for guys like Damon and I, because we spend so much time on the wall, are the things that we see happen that you guys don't even realize. The number of times that Damon and I have had conversations with the driver and afterwards been like, man, I can't believe it when it did this. And they're like, really? It did that?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, how many times, Damon? All the time, right? Because it's
from
natural.
my perspective, when I talk to a driver after a pass, if I see something, especially in the small tire world, I point it out. This is happening to your car, and they have no idea.
Oh, yeah.
Especially top-end stuff.
Well, funny cars, for years, guys didn't know how much the windshield was caving in on a funny car going down the racetrack until the super slow-mo came out, and you're like, holy crap, the whole windshield is cupped in, and that's when they made all the reinforcements even bigger for the windshields on the funny cars. I mean, there's so much. The windshields on the Top Fuel dragster, same deal. The tall windshields, are so different than having the short one. I mean, things move around different. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that people don't realize because we never had the ability to see it before. The technology to look at drag racing and see what's really going on is at a different level that changes everything too.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah. And Scott having Manzo help him. I've had crew chiefs in the past, luckily, that were old drivers. And that's a little bit of an edge because I can come back and I could tell Ed McCulloch, hey, the car did this or it felt like this. Sometimes I tell Tobler he's never really driven, so he doesn't understand. And what's funny is now I've worn those glasses a few times, and there's times he'll go, wow, I didn't know the clutch dust was that bad. I'm like, yeah, I've been telling you, like, I can't see from half track on sometimes until they started showing those videos of me wearing those glasses inside the helmet, and you actually see it come up, especially some of the tracks we race at, and Scott could tell you, like Seattle and places where the sun's coming in a weird angle. You add that to the clutch dust in a funny car, it's like pulling a blanket up. So it's always helped me to have somebody like that I can kind of go to. But there's times middle of the night I'll remember something and I'll text Tobler or I'll email and I'll totally have forgotten about it because you make runs. And Scott's different because you own your own stuff. You guys seem to have a little more fun than I get to have at the racetrack. It's a little more corporate over in my area. And sometimes I look over this pit area and I'm like, man, I'd like to just hang out over there for a weekend. You know what I mean?
There's some of the big teams. Yours might be one of them that they tell them not to hang out in my pits, but whatever.
Yeah,
that's a compliment to me.
That'll make us want to go over there more.
I was just gonna say, I have a feeling that if Schumacher came and said the Caps wasn't allowed to be there, he'd be putting on his Densham mask and hat and pretending and rolling right on over there.
Yeah, I'd be over there. Trust me.
Oh my God, yes. Well, guys, we really appreciate it for sure. Thank you so much for. As the dog goes crazy. Hold on one second.
God, are you in your trailer?
I'm in my trailer.
Yeah, Scott's in my trailer. Hold on one second, guys.
I'm at my shop. I'm working on. We've bought a Pro Mod to run this Midwest series while we're down, and so we're working on the Pro Mod right now, so we can run next weekend.
Now, is this one I've seen? You said it's a Corvette?
It's a '63 Corvette. No, we just got it.
Nice.
I mean,
split window. I take it probably.
Yeah, we got it.
Wow.
We got there Thursday, and we had it 14 days, and we painted it. Put every nut and bolt on it and went down there and tested it. And then next weekend, we're going to try to run it hard. You know?
So how can I watch these?
It'll be Chad and them are doing a live feed.
Yeah,
on we're doing.
Well, you'll be able to get the link on Bang Shift, but it's a pay-per-view on the FOTE. So you know how the FOTE works.
Yeah. I bought races on there.
Yeah, so go to the FOTE and you'll be able to buy the pay-per-view for Ennis.
Nice.
Yep.
And that's this weekend or following?
Following weekend. Yeah, next weekend. Yep.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, can't wait. So
Well,
that's Pro
guys-
Mods and what else?
Pro Mods, it's all the Midwest Pro Mods, top dragster, top sportsman. It's NHRA Top Alcohol Dragster and Funny Car, and I believe that it's some other divisional rate classes too, but I'm not sure if it's all of them. Like, I don't know if it's a full divisional meet or if it's one of the limited ones where it's just comp eliminator and all those guys.
Right.
So I don't know. I haven't got all the word yet, but it should be fun. So it should be a good time. I'll get all the details, and I'll send you a text message for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get you all the deets. Well, guys, thank you for being on our NHRA episode, our Pro Stock versus Funny Car versus Top Fuel. Caps, we didn't get to talk much about the Pro Stocker, but we had Alex Laughlin here, and he was talking, he was speaking very favorably about the nitro categories, even though he is a Pro Stock guy and loves it. I know you have a lot of respect for the Pro Stock world as well, because you just love all kinds of drag racing, and same with Scotty. It's funny because we can all talk smack about each of our individual, likes and dislikes, but ultimately we're a bunch of racers and all we want to do is go down a drag strip. We don't care what it's in or on.
We just want to be Scott when we grow up. That's the only thing.
Whatever.
Yep.
Dude, I don't know if my liver or my anything. Pocketbook.
Hey, it's Sonic. We don't even drink in our shop. We don't even have beer in our shop. We work in the shop and we go to the racetrack. Beer and drinks always taste better at the racetrack. Always.
I
Yes, they do.
agree wholeheartedly.
Always.
And everything racing related is better at the racetrack. It is cool to work on stuff at the shop, but there is nothing better than warming up the car in the pits in front of the fans. And I
Whacking
know you guys
the throttle.
Whacking the
Yes.
throttle. I heard y'all were
Dude,
going to start that. Ron?
Yeah,
No.
it's
Are you
dude.
kidding me?
It sucks that some of the teams have quit whacking the throttle. It really does, because I remember when you guys used to do it. But
I hated doing it. I'll tell you right now, I hated doing it
I love
because
it.
you had to get it right.
Oh,
If
yeah.
I didn't get it right, and I
Hey.
dread it. I was more worried about getting the throttle hit perfectly for my crew chief than I was making the run that day or getting past first round or anything. I was so
Really?
stressed. Oh my God, yeah. Because
Another
you had to do
reason,
it perfect.
another reason
And
I
you
have
meddling-
to own it. I have to own my own team so I can't get fired.
See? Yeah, well, I'm paid, and I had to get, and so then Madeline came up with this fixture he made so I could hit it right on it, and it was just this whole thing just to get the whack right. And I'm like, just let me whack it. Just let me whack it my own way. If I don't hit it right, well, you got to hit it within a certain RPM. Just so much pressure. I was so stressed out.
do
Believe
you
it or not.
understand how, I don't know why this makes me happy, but it makes me so happy to know that I have a show where Ron Cap said, just let me whack it my own way.
That's for a whole nother pay-per-view right there.
Ron Caps, you know how much I love you, dude, and I so appreciate everything, including you sending me beer. See, Scotty, you don't do this, and this is why I love you a little bit more. Ron, whenever I'm broadcasting a race, Ron sends me pictures from the brewery down the road from his house where him and his buddies are drinking. And they just send me pictures of beer on the table, and then I show them to all the live crowd and go, you thought Ron was nice, but this is what he's doing. He's teasing me about drinking. It's brutal.
Well, we're in the
Brutal.
brewery watching you, so we had to send beer
I know.
pictures.
Exactly.
I'll step up my game.
Yeah, there you go.
Uh-oh, that's scary.
I know. All right, boys. Well, thank you again. Ron
Yeah, this
Caps,
was
thank
fun,
you so
man.
much. Alex
Thank you, Ron.
Laughlin,
Yeah.
Scotty Palmer, Damon, another episode of Drag Racing Friends. We somehow made it through without
Just
anybody
barely.
dying or getting arrested. So, hey,
Do it again soon.
And I'm on
okay,
here.
we will.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
It's because we're doing it all from our houses. When we do this from the racetrack,
Oh, shit.
guaranteed somebody's passing out or going to jail.
Okay.
You get a gold star on our team for that.
I know, right? If you pass out and go to jail. All right, thank you, boys and girls. We appreciate it. We will see you on the next episode.